All right, and for today's lessons, we get to briefly talk about Espalier, which is a method of pruning and more specifically training a plant to be in a two-dimensional or to be in the form of a wall or a square or something else. And this is going to be helpful for areas that do not have a lot of room. So homes, areas where a tree cannot be allowed to grow in the shape of a vase, a ball, natural form with multi branches, then Espalier is going to be a method that is going to allow for people to grow certain types of trees. So it can be done with different types of trees. It can be done with shrubs. It can be done with many plants. And so here we have an example of an apple tree. And as you can see, the tree is acting as a wall. So this is a natural fence. The tree or several trees were planted. You can see one was planted here, maybe two, another one here, another one here, and they are using some kind of wire as a guide and as a beginning of the training process. So the wire is going to let them know where the branches are going to grow, and they're going to be trained. So the trees planted. Here we have a different view of this specific tree. So you can let it grow as high or low as you want and as wide as you want. So whatever width you want, it'll grow in uh, that width. As well as different types of shapes. So it's not just going to be a linear, or it could be some kind of round shape, and it could be a multi-branch individual. So for us, for many years, we were growing the apple trees that some of you had the opportunity to briefly prune them up. Uh, if you notice, some of them have died, and you can see a small one here that is still in the garden. But these trees were planted to be shaped like a wall, to be a living wall. And there is some wire. So you wonder was there a pole here? That is because that's where the wire was running from. And you can see another post right here, and the wire is coming across. So the wire is going to be important to train it or as a beginning phase. As the plant becomes older and it develops the woodiness, then they'll retain that shape for the rest of their life. So make sure that you know that the wire is not going to be there for the rest of the life of the plant, or it shouldn't be there. It's just as a training tool. So that's when they were almost finished. And here's the different view for some of that area that we had the opportunity to work on before we left. So, and we have our residential chicken that was still there during this time. So if we were to look at New York, so here is where I have found some of the better plants that are shaped, and they're right here, also acting as a wall. So here we have a pear tree, and this is going to be a very simple V shape. So we have a fruit tree that was planted, and at a certain point, and you choose the height, the plant was decapitated or a branch was selected, and it was trained to grow in the opposite direction. That branch gets tied to the wires that you see going across, and as it continues to grow, then it reaches a certain width, and that is as wide as the plant's going to be allowed to grow. From there, it's going to require annual pruning. So this is going to be very tedious. If you want the plant to remain and keep this specific shape, you're going to have to train it and prune it every single year. And a couple of times during the year, you might just do some minor detail work to help it along. But once you have achieved that form, it must be pruned every single year so that you don't lose the form that you've wasted, or sorry, that you spent so many years, because this is not something that you're going to achieve in 1 or 2 years. This is something that is going to be achieved in 10 plus years. And here we have the candelabra type or shape. So once again, a tree that was planted, and at a certain height, two branches were allowed to grow opposite to one another. So remember, you are selecting branches that will remain and going to help you achieve that form and that shape. So those branches were trained to grow out, and the tree continued to grow up. And at certain height, another two branches were selected to then grow and became the dominant individual. And then the central leader was probably then removed. And so you have four branches that have now become the form of the plant. That was allowed to grow a certain height, and from there it got decapitated, and now the plant is there. And so portion of the beauty with this plant is going to be the stem that will enhance the area by having some kind of shape, some kind of form, sometimes a specific color or specific architectural design that is going to be important for the landscape. And here we have a little more complicated. So this is now more of the diamond shape. So now trees were planted just a few feet apart, because then branches were going to be selected or were selected, and they were allowed to cross, eventually creating diamond patterns or checker patterns as they grow. The ones on the edge are just going to be growing towards one area. And so this now entails multiple trees that will create this geometrical form, shapes, and patterns. Again, very tedious, lots of time. So here is a tree in an apple tree that is in the dormant period. So this is here in Long Beach in late winter, early spring. You can see some of them are going to begin to flower. And so here is a little bit more rustic, but still doing the job. So there's rebarb that was erected, and it's creating the areas where the plant is going to be growing. And you can once again see the tree that was planted and the branches that were selected to grow out and eventually fill in the area. There was probably something that died here, and a new one was selected, and it's kind of going out there. So this is now creating somewhat of a living wall to hide the cylinder block in the wall in the back. So from a different angle, you can see a much older in the specimen back here and another one back there, and it keeps going on and on and on and on. So this is here in Long Beach. Also here in Long Beach, here is, I think it's an avocado. Once again, acting like a fence or acting, no, it's an apple tree. In the same manner with the wire, this one is going to be the three-tier living wall. Or we have the fan shape. Here is evergreen pear, normally grown as a tree, but once again, the plant was selected early in its time, and several, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 stems were allowed to remain. And that becomes the fan, and that's going to provide the flowers and the leaves and everything else. So beautiful, beautiful shape. Here is some that are a little bit younger. So here is a sky flower that has been trained. So this is a shrub. So that kind of helps because we know it's going to be multiple branches already to begin with. And you can see the stem. So the plant right here was allowed to grow, and a certain point, it can be from two different branches, they started to grow out, and then more were selected, and that is how the different tiers were created for this plant. If we look at it, a little bit closer, you can see here where some of the branches are kind of blending in with the wall, so you don't really see them. And from a different angle here, you can see how that looks. And different plants, so there were many. This is in England wood. And our pink powder puff here, also acting as a living wall, but the stems look kind of nice, blending with the wall as well as standing out with the green foliage. Here's a different one, and the close-up of that stem, and the leaves right here, and the leaves right there. So the sky's the limit. You can be creative. You can train and shape many plants and whatever plants you want. So you got an idea, a couple of plants, and a little bit of wire, and lots and lots and lots of time. So with that, I will end it, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.